Hello viewers and welcome to my channel. Today what we're going to do is that we're going to do something about roles. And when we say role is an identity that has permissions attached to it. So what we do with the role is that we are going to make sure that this role is being assumed by a service. And the service that we attach to this role is the EC2 instance. So we'll make sure that this role has the permission of having access to S3 buckets. And we use the roles to create buckets in the S3 buckets by using command lines in EC2. When we talk about command lines, the command line that we are going to use is the Linux command line. So in order to create the role, we need to also make sure that we go to the IAM account. And in order to go to IAM account, we scroll upwards. We select the select button. We type in IAM. You go to IAM, we select it. After that, what we are going to do is that you look for the role button because we want to create a role. You scroll downwards and we select the role. After selecting the role, you see that there is a role button upwards there. You scroll upwards and select it in order to create the role. After that, it will tell us that what do we want to do? Do you want to use services to assume it, or do you want to use AWS account to assume it? For us, we want to use services to assume it. And we want to use services, which is the EC2 instance. We scroll downwards and we choose the EC2. After choosing the EC2, we scroll downwards and select next button. Now what we want to do is to make sure that we choose permissions for the roles. So we want to choose a permission of having access to S3 buckets, full access to it. So we type in S3. We select the tick box, we move downwards and we select the next button. What it's telling us that we should type in the role name for it. So we type in the role name. So we type in S3 full access role. So now we are finished with it. We have the role now and we need to create it. We scroll downwards and we select create role. Now it has been successfully created. So what we need to now do is to make sure that we go and create the EC2 instance. And in order to create an EC2 instance, you need to move upwards, select the search button and type in EC2. After that, you scroll downwards. Now we are in the EC2 account. And every EC2 account also has a region. So we have to make sure that we deploy this EC2 account into a region. And in order to deploy it, you have to do it from the start. So let's go backwards and make sure that we deploy our EC2 account in the region that we want it to be deployed to. So we are going to deploy the EC2 account in a region. So what we are going to do is to select the US East 1 region. So the US East 1 region is the North Virginia. So after that, we now go and create the EC2 instance. Let's select EC2. Now we want to create an EC2 instance. And in order to create an EC2 instance, you scroll downwards and you select launch instance. Now we have the name you have to type in a name for the EC2 instance. We type in web server 3. We scroll downwards. We have to select the operating system for our machine or the image for it. The operating system that we select for it is Amazon Linux. We have Mac OS, Ubuntu, Windows, and so on and so forth. But for us, we choose Amazon Linux. We scroll downwards. And we also have the architecture. For the architecture, we have the 64-bit. For us, we choose the 64-bit as default. We scroll down again and we meet something like the T2 Micro. The T2 Micro is our vCPU, and our vCPU is one vCPU, and also have 1 GB of memory. And this one is very cheap. And when you look at a cloud architect framework, you have to make sure that you use cost optimization. And cost optimization is to avoid cost as much as possible, because it is saying that it's an additional cost. Additional costs apply for AMIs. So you have to make sure that we control our cost. So that is it. We scroll downwards again. And when you scroll downwards again, we can see the key pair. And what the key pair does is that we use the key pair to open our EC2 instance. Always the EC2 instance is being locked by default. You have to make sure that we create a key pair. In order to create a key pair, you scroll downwards. And when you scroll downwards, there is the key pair name. You need to create a key pair name. So we type in the key pair name, key pair 50. So that is what we are going to use for the name. We then see the private key format. So for us, we are going to use the private key format. And this is because we are using the Linux. We are going to use a command line to access remote servers. So in order to do that, we use the .pem as our private key file format. And we select create to create the key pair. So right now it's been successful. Key pair 50 has been created. So we scroll downwards again. And when you scroll downwards, it is telling us to create a security group. And now here's the security group over here. We have the allow SSH traffic. And we have already created it. And that is why that one is being ticked. We will use the SSH traffic. And this one is only used in Linux. In Microsoft, we also have the RDP. But due to the fact that we are using the Linux, we are having access to SSH. So we take this one. And after that one, we choose allow HTTPS traffic from the internet. So we select this one too. And we select this one. And that is it. We scroll downwards again. When you scroll downwards, this is our hard disk that is being virtually attached to our EC2 instance. And when you talk about it, we have the 8 GB. And we also have the general purpose type. And the general purpose type is found in the Elastic Block Store, which is the SSD, State Standard Drive. You scroll down again. And now everything is finished. And in order to create it, you need to select Launch Instance. We wait for it to load up. Now it's successful now. All we need to do is that we need to go and check our machine. And in order to do that, we go to Instances. Now here's it. We have our web server 3. And it's telling us that it's pending. So we need to wait for it to start running. But before we move over to our command line, what we need to do is that let's check whether everything is okay. So right now it's telling us that it's running. We need to check our status. System status checks running, and our instance status checks is running. So now the EC2 instance is healthy. We can use it. So we go to monitoring, and we go to security. For the security, here are our security groups. And it is telling us that everybody from the outside world can connect to our ports. That is why it is telling us 0.0.0.0/0. So that is what it means. Everybody can connect to our SSH. Everybody can connect to our 443, which is the HTTPS. And everybody can also connect to our HTTP. So now everything is successful for our security groups. The security group provides us with a virtual firewall. So it's very important that you create a security group for your instances, EC2 instances, so that it protects you from attacks. Now let's go to the networking. For the networking, we also have our public IP. Here is it. And we also have our private IP. So everything is successful. Let's go to storage. For the storage, you have the elastic block store. So that is what we are using, the general purpose elastic block store. And after that, you check the volume size is 8 GB. It is attached to the EC2 instance. So everything is fine now. What we need to do is that we need to go to our command line. So we are going there. And in order to go there, you scroll upwards and you select connect. Now we have connected to it. And in order to connect to it, you need to select the EC2 connect and you scroll downwards. Now we are in the command line now. So when we go to the command line, we need to make sure that we have activated the role. But for now, we have not activated the role yet. So in order to activate the role, we need to go to our instances and select Web Server 3. When you select Web Server 3, then we go to Actions. When you go to Actions, you select Security. And when you go to Security, you select Modify IAM Role. You see Choose IAM Role. Now we will choose it. And our IAM role is S3 Full Access Role. You select Update IAM Role. And now everything is successful. What we need to do is to go to the command line and give it commands. So let's start. We start with sudo su. And sudo su will give you access to the root account. And now we have access to the root account. So what we are going to do now is to make sure that we have access to the S3 bucket. And now we have the role attached to the EC2 instance. So we can have access to the S3 bucket. We have permissions to do so. We want to check the number of buckets in the S3 bucket. So in order to do that, you type in AWS S3 list. And it has popped up. Now we have seen all the list of the buckets in our S3 account. You have the Condoleezza, you have the Freed 5, and so on and so forth. So what we want to do next is to create a bucket in the S3 because we have administrative access to do so in the S3 bucket. And it is the role that has these kind of permissions to do so. And we, the EC2 instance, the EC2 instance has assumed this role and can use it to perform these kinds of functions. So we are going to use it. We are going to create a bucket. AWS S3. make bucket. After that, type in S3 // and you type in the name of the bucket that you want to use. So now that's the name of the bucket that we want to use. We type in enter, and that is it. Now we have been able to create a bucket. It's successful. So now let's see whether we can see the number of buckets in our S3 account. Let's type it in S3 AWS S3 list, and we type it in, and definitely it's successful. Here is it all. We have been able to create a bucket without using the management console, and this was possible due to the fact that we assumed the role, and the role had permissions to use the S3 account. So it shows you that there are so many ways of creating a bucket. There are so many ways of having access to your S3 account. And this is an easy way. We are in one place doing the whole work, and this makes it very faster. And that is why the command line is very important. And it's very important for all of us as cloud practitioners to learn something about the command line. It makes work very, very fast. So I urge everybody to learn these kind of things, and with practice you get used to it. So thanks for watching this video. Until next time, many thanks.